Hi, this is Brendan Murphy here, and welcome to the Please Do Something podcast. I'm a singer and a songwriter who will be talking to inspiring creative people about how and why they do what they do and some of the lessons they've learned along the way. Thanks for listening. As the four of us prepare to release a brand new album in 2024, I got the chance to sit down with my good friend Greg Canty over a series of episodes and talk about the albums that brought us to this point. Let's get into it.
Brendan, good to see you again.
Greg, great to see you.
Now, we left things in 1992 with the release of Man Alive. How did that go for you?
Yeah, Man Alive. There was a lot of stuff changing around us on the release of that album in retrospect. The music industry was changing. I think that was grunge coming in around about that time. It was. I think Nirvana had sort of hit around that time. It was sort of the end of the Dance, the Stone Roses, that era, and a new era was being ushered in. This was the time when there was these waves of sort of completely changing the musical landscape. Not like the way it is now. It was very exciting, actually, because there was just constantly these new sort of waves that were taking music in general, pop music, rock music, in a different direction. So we were in the middle of that. Plus, CBS was in the middle of this change to Sony, whole new people being brought in, people being chucked out. So it was turbulent. You were aware of that. And we'd taken 3 years to make the record. When you're working with a major record company, that's not necessarily a great idea because you can lose a lot of the people that were interested in you in the first place. You know, the turnover there was pretty fast anyway, but this was a whole different ballgame. But basically, Sony were buying CBS Records. So we were caught in the middle of it. And I think that basically we didn't have the same sort of leeway that we would have had. So the patience from the record company was less. So even we sort of scraped into the top 30 with She Hits Me. They were still sort of nervous about where it was going. You know, was it going big enough, fast enough? And we were nervous about them. So there was like a sort of, the honeymoon was over for both of us, I think, in terms of the new guard. We weren't as enamored, let's say, with some of the new people that were making the big decisions. And of course, they weren't as committed nor invested in us. I think when the album came out, but to be fair to them, I think they also thought, look, you've taken 3 years to make between your first and second album. We want to guarantee that that's not going to happen again. So, but we liked the band, and you've just hit the top, you just got into the top 40 in the UK. So we're going to change the deal that basically, which technically they couldn't. So if you'll agree to it, so you have 6 months to record the demos for your new album. 6 months, not 3 years. Get a move on, boys. And if we like it, we're releasing. And if we don't, then we'll drop it, because the fact is they were technically supposed to make a decision 3 weeks after we just had a hit in the UK, which was an unfortunate position that they found themselves in. But we had just, and this is very technical, but we had just basically re-signed a big deal with our publishing company, so money wasn't a problem for us. So we said, no. We said, we're not feeling a lot of commitment or faith on your part, so we're just going to stick it to the original terms of the deal. So you have to make the decision now, not in 6 months. We're not going to run around trying to make records for you, because we're making them for us. That's the way we work. We got into this business to do our own thing. If we're basically an employee of you, then we'd rather not have that. So just make your mind up now, because we don't care. And they said, okay. So they let us go. And then we thought, okay, well, great. Now let's do our own thing. Let's do what. But we said, okay, well, now let's make the record we want to make, and we're going to make this one fast anyway. You know what I mean? So we said, well, let's buy our own studio. We've got enough money. Let's buy our own studio with a nice. We had a big house in Belfast, and it was like the Young Ones, but with a budget. We set one of the rooms, converted it into studio, and we said, we're going to make our own record in our own house. And then when we're ready, it was basically, we'll just do what we did the last time. We'll get signed by whoever we want to when we make this fantastic record. So we went in the middle of 1993, and by 1997, there was still no record. And we'd given up. Half the people that were involved had basically run out of patience. And myself and Declan moved down to Dublin to see if we could start. We'd obviously miscalculated on a rather grand scale. So, and of course, the money from the publishing deal was starting to we didn't have this sort of like a big swollen bank account that we had whenever we were, telling Sony Records what to do, So it was a lesson. So in retrospect, I got to hand it to Sony. I would have done the same thing. It's like, look, guys, they were right, really, because they calculated that left to our own devices, we would just take too long, take forever to make another record. And that's not the way to do it. And they were right, because we were left to our own devices, and we did do exactly what they probably thought we were going to do. So if we had been a bit more self-aware, we would have said, okay, we'll go in and do the demos in 6 months. And then even if they hadn't, but the problem is then that sort of the record company owns those demos. So if you make a great record and there's just somebody there with 10 years, then you're sort of a bit screwed, you know what I mean? Because you've done this work and they own it. But yeah, that's a long answer to a short question.
If you had taken that deal, but would something like Amplifier have appeared after 6 months?
No, I don't think so. I think that would have been a different record. I think Amplifier was, the songs that made up Amplifier were, I think it was the sound of a band that was sort of drowning, really. We'd started off not as a band, and then we'd sort of become a band with Man Alive, and then I think ultimately the clothes didn't really fit us, really, because we weren't real. That's not really what we were interested in when it gets right down to it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what would have happened, but I laugh about. It's funny now, It's I actually have nothing but fond memories of that time and of all the people involved, the publishers, the record company. It was a really, I don't really have a lot of people have they ripped me off or they did me wrong stories, and we don't, If there were mistakes made, we definitely made plenty of them. We made plenty of them. Looking back now, I just, go, well, but so that's it. That's it. But, that's part of the journey,
I presume your own legal background helps you steer the ship through some of those conversations with the record companies and publishers and all that kind of thing.
I suppose, the overriding thing with us was we got into the music business to sort of do our own thing. That's it. That's really, when you simplify it, it signified freedom for us, freedom to follow our own muse or whatever. And the fact is, that's fine. But once you're spending other people's money, well, then you have to listen to other people's opinion. And if you keep getting it right, then the smart people high up will just go, just let them keep doing what they're doing because it's obviously working. But if cracks appear in your decision making, then rightfully those people are going to start second guessing you. And the second that happens, the relationship shifts, and then it's a different thing. And suddenly you don't feel as free anymore. So, at that point, then we ended up on a path that ultimately suited us, whereby we spend our own money so we don't have to listen to anybody else's decisions. And even if our decisions is like driving a car into the ditch every now and again, it's just what we do. I think that ultimately maybe we just weren't designed to be one of those acts, that work well within a major label confines.
And those 4 years, were you gigging solid throughout those 4 years?
No, the opposite. We weren't gigging at all. We weren't doing any shows. because we were trying to figure out what the next version of the four of us was. That's really what it was. I mean, we were in the studio, and you know, when we're trying to figure that out, what we tend to do is we don't sort of try and gig our way into a new sound or a new persona or anything. We're more likely to go into the womb of the whatever recording studio we're in and try to just flail around until we figure it out, which is what we did in that house in Belfast for a few years.
Did it drive you nuts eventually?
Yeah, it sort of did, yeah. And I remember at one stage when Larry Mullen out of U2, he had gone to see the band actually when on the Man Alive, one of the Dublin show, I think in the Tivoli. He just liked us, and I played him one of the songs, the first songs that ended up being on Amplifier, called Turn On, and he loved it. And he was full of encouragement, really, and he helped us get a video made with a fantastic director called Maurice Linan, who had shot stuff for U2 and called Bon Jovi, everybody, you know. But really, the cracks in the four of us were starting to appear at that point, because it was myself and Declan really who had started the whole thing and who had a sort of a vision of it. But really the vision was as a songwriting team, really, I think, you know. And funny enough, when we sort of went back to the house after we started working on two fronts, because I couldn't help but keep writing acoustic songs. I just couldn't not do it. So we ended up having like two tapes, you know, and by tapes I mean TDK, you know, those tapes that you have, you know, where you do the wee demos. And one of them was called Organics, and the other one was called Industrial or something like that. I forget what it was. But basically, the Industrial one was Amplifier, and the Organics was a completely different thing, more like what we are now. And but we were still, I think, pretending to be a band at that point, you know, still holding on to it. And so we put more effort into the other aspect, which is the songs that became Amplifier.
It pretty much sounds like that. A little bit. Had you decided you couldn't be that acoustic songwriting duo, you had to be this rock band, and it took you a few years to figure that one out?
Yeah, it probably was. I mean, at that point, I remember, like, you know, you had people with you now for quite a few years. You'd sort of taken a turn towards this thing that ultimately I was feeling less and less interested in, you know. So the longer everything was taken, the fun started going out of it. And when the fun started going out of it, the band started fracturing, like our other brother, Paul, who wasn't really a songwriter. I think rightfully he was going, well, I don't want to be at the mercy of these two, because I don't know when this record is going to be finished. Is it going to be, you know what I mean? So he probably wanted to take some control over his own life at that point. So gradually, the whole thing just sort of dissipated over a period of 3 years, you know? So even if you had loved the record, there wasn't the impetus to sort of get it out there, you know?
Yeah. And yet it's the lost soul or the curiosity that I know a lot of the fans buy it from the website, and I know at the gigs you can purchase it as well. How do you feel about it?
When I listen to it, I enjoy it. It's good, but it was mad. It was mad. You know, I remember when we were making the record, because it was in the house. It was in the house, right? So, I mean, it was a big house, but it wasn't that big. So I remember, I'll sum up that time. I can sum it up. Like, with the drum kit permanently set up in. So imagine a sort of a big sort of a red brick house, and you've got on one side you've got a big hall, and then on one side you've got a living room, and the other side you've got a sitting room. Well, the sitting room had been completely converted into a studio. So the way we'd do it would be, I would get up in the morning and start working, right? But Declan, he likes to work at night. Okay, so now you're left to your own devices for a couple of years of this behavior. So everything gets more extreme. You know what I mean? There's nobody sort of like I don't even know, whatever girlfriends were there, they weren't hanging around. So I remember at one point our mum and dad came up to the house because they were going away to America or somewhere for 3 weeks. So they had a dog called Bruce, and they said, look, can you look after Bruce for 3 weeks while we go away on holiday? And we said, yeah, no problem. So Bruce arrived to our house. Now, he was leaving a house that was very regimented. Everything sort of happened at the right time. Daddy got up and both got up and they all went to bed early. So he arrived at our house, and in our house there was myself, my brother Paul, my brother Declan, and our tour manager, Mark Heatley, who was basically had been with us from Songs to Attempted. So he was basically the guy whose job was to kick ass and take names. And Mark got up at about 7 in the morning, which is very early for anybody in the rock and roll business, right? He got up about 7. I would get up about maybe 9, half 9, and some breakfast, and then start work around 10, half 10. Declan would get up later because he liked to work in the studio till God knows when, like sort of 3, 4 in the morning. So as the months passed, soon it got to the point where I was getting up at maybe 10 o'clock, half 10. Declan was get up at maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon because he'd been up till 6 o'clock in the morning working in the studio. So I'd be working with Declan then. I'd work on my own, and then Declan would join me around about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then I would call the night about half 10, and Declan would keep working until early hours in the morning. And then Mark Heatley was up at 7. Okay, now the dog basically he was so confused with when everybody was getting up that he sat in the hall and waited for somebody to do something, for a door to open. So the first door, so the door opened at 7. It's Mark Heatley, our tour manager. He would get up and start doing his press ups or whatever he was doing, so the dog would follow him around. Then I'd get up, the dog would follow me around. 4 o'clock, Declan gets up. He starts following Declan around. The problem there is that he goes back into the hall to go to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. 2 hours later, Mark Heatley gets up and he starts following him around. After about a week of this behaviour, the dog was completely, he didn't know whether he was coming or he was going. And whenever my father picked him up, a couple of days after he picked him up, he rang the house and he says, did you give Bruce drugs or something? And I said, what? Did you give him drugs? He's all over the place. He's been sleeping for 2 days solid. I can't get him. He's behaving really weirdly. Because the dog did not know. So that sort of madness was, poor old Bruce was he was brought into what was a pretty sort of not the most productive setups, So, yeah. So I laugh. I think it's, I laugh. You ask me, what are my memories of it? That's my biggest memory, the dog. If I remember thinking that dog is a metaphor for where this is headed. He's confused and he's just, so...
Well, there's a song on the album called Drugged. Is that about the dog? Is that about Bruce?
There's a song called Sometimes It's Tough on the album. And Bruce is on that song. Bruce's barking is on that song. So Bruce actually made it onto the album.
Ah, well done, Bruce. So
yeah.
I was filming in that 3-week period.
That's how desperate we were for inspiration. We basically literally used our father's pet to try and see if they could add something to it,
Yeah.
Change, fully my God, sweet, she gotta leave me.
Because I'm listening to you chatting away and I'm thinking, you know, the Christmas tree goes up one year and it comes down, and it's up another year and it comes down. It's up a third year and it comes down, and there's still no album.
Yeah.
You have a tour manager who isn't organising tours.
That's right.
It must have been an unusual house, all right.
Yeah, it was. And people from the outside, I think, thought the music industry has such a sort of, it doesn't have a reputation for being that together anyway. I mean, a lot of the most successful people in the music business don't have a reputation for being that together. So this behavior, weird and all as it was, people would look at it from the outside, if friends who weren't in the music business, and go, well, that's the music business for you. You know what I mean? Now, I was in the middle of it, and I can tell you now that I'm on the other side of it, it seems completely, you know, as I said, I find it laughable now, you know, but it sort of had the effect of clearing the deck, really. That's what it did. It sort of cleared the deck in, I think, a really good way. And the thing is, there was no hardship for us, really. You know, it was all quite harmless. There's nobody taking drug overdoses. There's nobody. We were just being creative, but not being productive. And there's a big difference. You know, there's a big difference. Just you can be creative, but, you know, this was supposed to be. And certainly, I think as well, you weren't thinking of your audience enough. You know, it's a funny thing, you know, once you, I'm older now, and now I think of myself as serving people. It's service, I think, you're trying to be of use for, you know, the fact that I could write a song, or we could do a show that lifts people, that you could write a song that connects with people. That's not something to take lightly, and I don't take it lightly. But at that point, were we thinking like that? Not enough. You know, that guy is not me now. You know, it's just that guy wasn't thinking enough about the people that had given him a platform.
Can you steer me through the album? Now, I know you mentioned Turn On, the track that Larry Mullen liked, and you did the video for that. Mm-hmm. The other songs on the album, could you steer me through it, you know, in the way that you remember it?
Well, I think that we were watching a lot of daytime TV. We were watching MTV. Unsurprisingly, we were watching MTV a lot. And as I said, ever since that, and it was affecting the record. There was a lot of stuff that we found really exciting. You know, there was Ill Communication, an album by the Beastie Boys, which had Sabotage on it, and you know, the Beck's debut album, Mellow Gold. This sort of artists who were sort of abrasive, taking songwriting and really sort of throwing it around, you know, to the point where it was hard to figure out where the song was. You know, Sabotage is a case in point where, you know, it's really just a collection of phenomenally great sounding bits, you know. I mean, the video is something else, but really that whole thing was affecting us. And then we were going in and we were doing our version of that, I think. And as I said, like when I hear it, I could hear the influences. We've never made an album before or since that wore its influences on its sleeve. And that one did. And that's another big reason why it's not on Spotify and why we haven't released it. Because the whole idea for us is to do something that is, no one needs another version of, something, it's you're trying to do something unique. All the people that I love are all one-offs. So that was the first and last time that I made that mistake where I got too sucked up with what was going on, and you were wearing your influences on your sleeve. And also, I think with that record, I've certainly personally for me, the two things that I think that I didn't do my job really, which is melody and lyrics. That's really what I work hard at. But on that record, I don't know. I think there's a lot of phenomenal playing by Peter McKinney, the drummer, by John McCallum, the bass player, by Paul, our keyboard player, and particularly by Declan, the guitar player. Like Declan actually is a phenomenal electric guitar player. On that album, he really did a lot of interesting stuff. So I think if anybody let the side down, to be honest, it was me. My voice was being put through vocoders, and lyrically, I don't know what it's vague. So I wasn't playing to my strengths on that album, I don't feel. I think everybody else did a good job. I think I was sort of like already beginning to go, I'm not too sure that this is the sort of music I want to be making in this sort of way.
Yeah, and yet then I listened to it, and yeah, I kind of agree it wouldn't be my favourite album, but at the same time, I'm hearing a lot of really, really good tracks. Sci-Fi Blue, that was really, really good. Your vocal was unusual on it. It was really different. Natural Born Killers, I thought that was a great track, really, really different again. On my own podcast, the Win Happy podcast, I use Someone's Gotta Lose. The lyrics wouldn't be very win happy, but I like the music so much, and that end to it so much.
It has a lot of power. I mean, I think the record, if I'm gonna, I've been talking the record down a lot, but the fact is that, again, if it was to go the other way, I would say there's nothing we've made that has the amount of aggression that is on that album. It's an aggressive sounding record, and Declan, as a guitar player, has never rocked harder than he has on that record. And I do think it's in fact some of his best guitar riffs are on that record. As I said, unfortunately, I don't feel that I maybe stepped up to the plate in terms of like delivering a song around it, because great riffs are fantastic, but really I'm interested in songs. I'm interested in songs and I'm interested in stories. And when I get too far away from that, I get a bit lost. And on that record, I get a bit lost.
Pick a track that we'll listen to that you weren't so lost on it.
Well, I think Take a Deep Breath is a song that is probably, that is more, that could be a Four of Us song. And in fact, we didn't changes on that album, is it? No, it's not. I don't think it is. No, it's not. I don't think it is. Yeah, Take a Deep Breath. There's an emotional weight in that song, I think, that I get off on. And I sort of sound like myself in that one.
Yeah, I think you could lift that and put it on any album. And maybe at some point, as a fan's bonus thing, maybe there's just a remix version of that or something. I have no idea. I know you don't like to repeat yourself or go back in anything, but maybe in a different frame of mind, there's some really, really good tracks there if you went back to them. I was kind of laughing to myself looking at the names of some of the songs. The last four tracks, if you think about it, actually the last five, Life Keeps You Waiting, and I know you were in the house with Bruce,
yeah,
getting up at different times, and the tour manager who wasn't organising any tours. Relax My Mind, Take a Deep Breath. Sometimes It's Tough. That sounds like someone that's going through something.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. I mean, you know, I mean, exactly. I mean, the sort of clues in the titles.
A tiny bit.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. So I think that basically I was coming to terms with the fact that I remember thinking at the end of it, I don't care if I never stand on stage with an electric guitar. You know, and in fact, Declan never has. You know, I really didn't want to be near electric guitar, distorted, any of that. I just was done with it. You know, I think I probably was going through a sort of I think the realization that I didn't have it all figured out. That I thought that. I will put this studio in here and we'll do this, we'll knock this record out and blah, blah, blah. And suddenly it was like, well, I'm not quite, you know. It was a good lesson to learn for me. I didn't make that, you know, I didn't make the mistake. I sort of lost, not some of the edges off me. And if anything, I started second guessing myself after that. And I sort of like because I thought, well, how could you have got lost that way for a couple of years, you know? But that is again, now I just go, well, that's what you're doing. You're just going through. You're allowing yourself to be creative, and you're allowing yourself to sort of decide what to keep and what to lose. And I sort of look back and go, wow, we've had a lot of creative freedom for a long time, really, you know, and I think that we were lucky to be able to make our mistakes. Sometimes take years doing it. and then go, no, and let's start again, And I think I always knew that this was a marathon. I always knew that I was going to be doing this that this was a vocation, this was sort of life's work. And it was all right if you went off track for a couple of years. And I think Declan thought exactly the same. So when everybody else around us was, looking for a direction that we didn't have, we were the only ones who weren't really concerned about it,
Yeah. As a rocker, I would have thought the songs for The Tempted and Man Alive, and definitely Amplifier, there were so many songs there for the rocker. But in a way, with Washington Down and Hymn for Her and some of your other softer tracks, I think you brought the rocker with you into that other version of the four of us. And in a funny way, maybe this album was you just saying goodbye to the rocker, because you were on stage and you did rock it out and you did those big gigs and everything else. And maybe this was the final closing of that door. And maybe that song you mentioned, Take a Deep Breath, was welcome to the next phase of the four of us. Because I remember going to a gig of yours, and I remember sitting in the crowd thinking, come on, boys, just rev it up. Do you remember?
Yeah, liven it up a bit.
Yeah, do you remember the way you used to? And, drag my bad name down. Just come on, let's... At what point is the gig you're going to just rock it out the way you used to? And so maybe to close off this podcast, to officially say goodbye to the rock four of us, will you pick a track from the album that you might have played on one of those rocking it out nights? We'll wave goodbye to that version of the four of us.
Okay, I would go for a Turn On, because I love Declan's guitar riff in that song. I love it. It's a really great guitar riff. And actually, I really like the title, and I really like, there's one where I think the chorus is, it's a good, what does it take to make you turn on? What does it take to make you feel stronger? What does it take to make you last longer? That's good stuff.
Hit the ground, missing me, Jesus. It's the way I explain. If I got something to keep me, I got home with some rearrange. Shaking me, Jesus. It's the end of the road, and I can't find a way out because I'm in the deep cold. You raise me up, let me down. I can't tell you why I'm waiting. I don't know what it's all about, but I believe in anything. What does it take to make you turn on? What does it take to make you turn on? Breaking your heart and making mine stronger. What does it take to make you last longer?
Now, you know what I mean? Now, unfortunately, if I added more of that, I think I'm being tough on the whole record, because I think I wish that my lyrics and melody lines had kept pace with what Declan and Paul and Peter, the drummer, and John were doing musically. I think musically it's a very, very interesting record. And as I said, maybe my antagonism towards it is related to my own feelings on it, that I realized that I was going to have to work harder on what it was that I was contributing. And I never forgot that lesson on any of the albums that we've made since.
Yeah. So you were feeling a bit like poor old Bruce for those few years.
I was.
And for proof of that, you do need to listen to the song Drugged if you get a chance. Brendan, thanks a million.
Oh, thanks, Greg. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. So we're back for the next episode. Where are we going to next?
Well, the next record is Classified Personal, which is the juxtaposition to that record, which is basically it's the Organics tape. That was the basis of Classified Person. It was like if it was the two polar opposite tapes. Okay, why am I? I'm going to say that basically I was listening to the Organics one all the time and going, feels like it's got more heart to me. So I think that ultimately I was going, I don't want to be in a band. I don't want to be in a band, and I think that it doesn't really. This suits. It's this sort of songwriting suits me more.
Cool. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
What I want lies in the dark, sliding like a snake on an altar. What I want trips me up, drives me to the bone. I need water. Some nights I can't sleep, searching for the door in the street light. I walk out, I could tell myself I'm in control. Don't need another hit, I'd be lying. When I roll the car out, all I think about is staying clean. But I find myself pressed against your skin. Take me down somewhere I wanna go, somewhere in between, till I know I can't let go. But baby, you're the one who brings me down. Baby, you're the one. I can never find the right words, but here I go. Here I go. Drug. Things have gone too far when you leave me. Drug. I don't know who you are, but you leave me. Drug. Higher than a scream, coming round to bring me down, but I know what this means. Things have gone too far when you leave me. Drug. I don't know who you are, but you leave me. Drug. Higher than a scream. You leave me. Drug. You leave me.
Thank you for listening to the Please Do Something podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, just send an email to brianmurphy@new